Hey guys, Andy from WagerTalk.com. We are going to go fight by fight through UFC Fight Night Vegas 78. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Vicente Luque. All of our official plays can be found on WagerTalk.com. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, just follow me at Bump Sports. Coming off a really funky event last weekend, so my perfect run of the last few events came to an end as we lost our play of the week, but it was a funky card. I honestly probably should have just not played anything. I smelled that there were just fights that reeked of upsets and weirdness. But I do like this card. I've had my eye on this card for a couple of weeks, and I do believe that there's some really good bettable spots. So let's just get right into it. We're going to start off with Juliana Miller and Luana Santos. And I've been following Juliana Miller all the way through when she was on The Ultimate Fighter. And she just hasn't really impressed in the UFC, to be honest. So I know she got the win over Brogan Walker, and it doesn't look like a good win anymore. Like, Brogan Walker looks absolutely terrible. And then in her next fight, she just gets completely dominated by Veronica Hardy. And she just looks really, really too raw. She doesn't look like she's got the striking game. She doesn't look like she's got a good enough or UFC caliber wrestling, takedown, or defense game. So, her striking game is just really, really bad. So we got Luana Santos, who's making her UFC debut. She's minus 140. Miller's plus 120. I like Santos here. I think her striking is way better than Miller's. Santos has a judo background, and she showed it 2 fights ago. She took her opponent down and kept her there for good durations of rounds. I just think Juliana Miller, she's probably going to improve, but she would have to have an immense level of improvement to win here. And I just don't see it. After that Brogan Walker fight, we were excited to fade Juliana Miller because we just didn't think she looked that good. And we cashed on her against Veronica Hardy, and I think we're going to cash on her again. I think minus 140 is a bargain here. So have not been impressed with Juliana Miller. You can see her record. She's only 3-2. Santos is 5-1. So I'm going to keep fading Juliana Miller until I see some real upside with her, but I just haven't seen it. That win against Brogan Walker looks so bogus and so bad. So give me Santos minus 140. A little bit chalky and pricey, but I think it's kind of a good price. Montserrat Ruiz versus Jaqueline Amorim. Amorim minus 275. I don't get it. I do not understand why Amorim is this big of a favorite. We'll start with her, and she's 6-1. Okay, that's, pretty good. She lost against Sam Hughes, and I think this is a big deal because I think what Sam Hughes did is what Ruiz can do. And so what happened was Amorim just got held down by Hughes. Hughes was able to, I think Hughes lost round 1, and then we just see in round 2, Hughes, the activity, the athleticism, takes her down. She wins rounds 2 and 3. At least that was my opinion. And Amorim just didn't really have anything. She couldn't get up. She couldn't really fight Hughes on the bottom. And Ruiz, maybe we're getting value because she lost so quick against Amanda Lemos. But, it's Amanda Lemos, first off, and it was a quick KO at the beginning. But look, before that, against Cheyenne Lismus, she gets the win. And that's how Ruiz won that fight against Lismus was, she took her down and she can make the fight dirty. And I think we got a really good stylistic matchup here for a dog. I think Ruiz is absolutely a live dog. So now what does maybe worry is Amorim is more polished on the feet. Absolutely, it's more polished. But Ruiz can make this a dirty fight. She can win on the ground. And with watching what Sam Hughes did to Amorim, there's no way I'm laying this big of a price when I see Ruiz being able to do that for at least 1 round. Now, she does it for 2 rounds and then survives a third. We're looking at a really, really nice cash. So sprinkle on the underdog. That's the only way that I think we play this fight, as I think Ruiz is not only a live dog, but I would put these odds way more close to even. So you give me Ruiz at that plus 2 to 1. Absolutely, for sure. Martin Buday and Josh Parisian. I don't know. I guess I guess don't really bet on this fight. If you are, I guess you're only taking Martin Buday. I just think this is a stay away. I mean, this is a betting show. We're talking about this from a betting perspective, and I just, Buday should be better on the feet. He's got a little bit crisper striking, but his last fight against Jake Collier, he was pushed up against the fence. At the end of the round, we saw Collier on top. That being said, he's just much better in the clinch. He's got good knees and uppercuts. Against Parisian, should be good enough to win. Parisian's really slow with his strikes. We saw Jamal Pogues, he took him down, controlled him. So Buday's 12-1 here in the UFC, and Parisian's only 2-3 in the UFC with his 2 wins being against bad opponents. So it's Buday or nothing in this one, but I don't know. In this heavyweight division, who knows? So I would stay away, but it's Buday or nothing. So Francis Marshall, Isaac Dulgarian. My boy Francis Marshall let us down against Gomes in his last fight where he lost a split decision. Marshall started off the fight. He was just very, very tentative, could not commit to the wrestling, and he finally did commit and dominated the last part of the fight, but it was too little, too late. He almost had the submission. And Marshall's very strong. I think he learned a lot from that last fight. Where if you're tentative and you don't really know how to implement your strategy, or you're only 75% confident in your strategy, you're going to lose rounds. And finally, we saw it late in the round. Marshall was like, "All right, I'm just going to commit to it," and he did great. And he's 7-1. That was his first loss. Learning experience. I expect him to come back strong. Isaac Dulgarian, man, this guy is a missile. He just, when the fight starts, man, full speed ahead. All 5 of his fights have ended before the 3-minute mark, but this is a massive step up in competition. We've really never seen the cardio of Dulgarian, and I'm assuming he's going to try and start as fast as he normally does. But if he doesn't get the early finish, which Marshall's going to be really, really tough for Dulgarian to finish. If he doesn't get to finish, I think Marshall wears him down and eventually gets the finish, because I just can't believe Dulgarian's going to have the cardio to go that long against Francis Marshall. I like Marshall to win. Him being tentative last fight makes me nervous, but I think it may help Marshall that he may not have time to be tentative, because Dulgarian's just going to rush him from the very beginning. Honestly, the best way to play this, I think, is wait until the props come out and just take this to not go the distance. Dulgarian's going to try and finish early. If he doesn't, I think Marshall takes it in rounds 2, maybe 3, because I think Dulgarian tires himself out. I just don't see any way you can keep up that aggression and that pace for that long. So I like the fight to not go the distance on that one, but I do lean Francis Marshall. He's -200. It's a little steep, so look for unders. Speaking of unders, happy Terrance McKinney fight week, everyone. Listen, there's only one way to bet Terrance McKinney fights, and that is to take the unders, and I will not deviate from that. McKinney has yet to have a UFC fight go over 1.5 rounds. That's what I recommend playing here. Breeden, not very impressive, 0-2 in the UFC, got absolutely smoked. Absolutely sparked by Alexander Hernandez. And then he loses a decision to Natan Levy. Breeden just isn't great anywhere. He's really tough. He can absorb strikes, but that's not a recipe for winning. It's actually a recipe for losing. I have not seen any upside. Not only is he 0-2 in the UFC, but he did lose his Contender Series fight. I think this could be a really nice get-right spot for Terrance McKinney, who's lost 3 out of 4. Now, we'll take a look at who he's lost to. So he lost to Sadikov, rear naked choke. Bonfim gets crushed in the second round. And then Drew Dober knocks him out in the first round. That's just not Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden's not going to come forward and go for those kill shots. I don't even know if he can at this level. So I do like McKinney. It's -275. But here's the thing. I don't want to lay -275 on McKinney. The guy's gotten finished in all 3 of his losses. He has admitted, I'm going to try and come out fast from now on. I don't want to be tentative. So I'm going to come out fast and do what I do, which is try and finish early. So I think you're going to see McKinney be really, really aggressive, but it still leaves himself wide open for a flash KO. I'm not overthinking this fight. Take the unders. Try and maybe find an alt line under 2.5. I don't think the judges are going to be needed, but taking the under in this fight, maybe parlaying it with the under in the Francis Marshall fight might be a good one. But Terrance McKinney fights and unders, those are the ways to play it. Up next, Marcus McGhee versus JP Bays. And this is one of the fights on this card. There's a few of them where it's like, okay, we're trying to set this guy up so he loses another one so we can cut him from the UFC. And this feels like one of them. So we got Marcus McGhee versus JP Bays. And I'll just start with JP Bays, who I just don't think is very good. Just gets absolutely railroaded by Cody Durd. Just smoked in the first minute. Loses to Montel Jackson. Gets knocked out by Bruno Silva. I watched his last fight against Cody Durd. I mean, he was so slow in the striking department. He couldn't even get his hands up to block any of the punches. And Durden, I know, is looking really great these days. But it just, I don't know. I watch Bays and go, okay, Bruno Silva, that was a tough, first fight. Montel Jackson, that's a tough one. But he just really hasn't been that competitive. And the Durden fight really was a gigantic. It looked really, really bad. And he's fighting Marcus McGhee, who I kind of like. We bet on him when he made his UFC debut against Journey Newsom. He came from LFA, and I thought he put out a really good fight for his very first UFC fight. He didn't show nerves as the fight went on. I thought he came out pretty calm and composed and worked really good strikes. His footwork looked really good. His pace looked really good. His cardio looked good. And he works on Journey Newsom and gets the finish in the second round. That's a really good UFC debut. And he's got a low ceiling. Like, McGee's not going to be, fighting for a championship, anytime soon. But at this range of competition, I think he's good. I think he's going to win some of these fights until he gets a big step up in competition. So I think his pressure moving forward is going to be the way to go. I think he's going to catch Bays, and I'm just not really sure what the path to victory is. Bays, I don't know, maybe his speed and jab and move. But I thought McGhee looked really good, and I think he's only going to get better as that was his first fight. That was kind of at the end of April. So McGhee is a big favorite here, minus 400 for good reason. This is probably going to be Bays' fourth loss in a row, and then he's probably done in the UFC. So maybe you want to wait and take McGhee inside the distance, because I do think if McGhee can get close enough, I think he knocks out Bays or gets him on the ground and looks for another submission. But I do like McGhee in this one. It's also a big fade of JP Bays. So up next, Josh Fremd, Jamie Pickett. This is my most confident play on the card. Here's another guy that may get cut from UFC after this one. So Josh Fremd is minus 300 against Jamie Pickett. So we'll start with why we're going to fade Jamie Pickett. And, I mean, listen. Okay, loses to Bo Nickel, no big deal. But losing to Dennis Tululin and getting finished, and then getting finished by Kyle Daukus is bad. Those are bad UFC losses. So he's 2-5 in the UFC on a three-fight losing streak. And this is just not going to go well for Jamie Pickett, I don't think. So Josh Fremd, he makes his UFC debut. He fights Anthony Hernandez really good. That was a tough fight. And then he loses to Trayshawn Gore in one of the craziest guillotines I've ever seen. Fremd was winning. Gore just goes for the Hail Mary guillotine choke and about pulled Fremd's head off. It was very strange. But then Fremd comes back. It's a really nice guillotine choke against Cedric Dumas. I think he does the same thing against Pickett here. So Fremd is no doubt going to try and get this on the ground. He should, and I just don't see where Pickett is going to have much success once Fremd gets it on the ground. My guess is he's going to win by submission. Fremd would be, Bo Nickel submitted him, Kyle Daukus submitted him. Pickett is going to desperately need to keep this on the feet and hope to win a striking battle. He has no wins by finish in the UFC. So it's unlikely that he's going to get a finish. I just think this is Josh Fremd's. This should be a Josh Fremd easy win, most likely on the ground by submission. So this is a great parlay piece. This is my most confident play on the card is Josh Fremd. I know it's minus 300. I'm not breaking any ground saying that this is an amazing, great pick. But if you're looking for a parlay piece, this is my favorite one on the card, Josh Fremd to win. Up next, Tafon, Nchucwi, and AJ Dobson. Listen, this fight is just going to be too close to call for me. I'm not a big fan of either one of these fighters. I mean, you've got Tafon, who's lost to Azamat and Carlos Olberg. No shame in those two losses. I mean, those are the two legit opponents. You got AJ Dobson, who's lost to Jacob McCann and Armin Petrosian. So I'm not going to bet on this one. Both guys are fairly low volume. I just don't think they each have much upside on the ground. I think this is a close fight on the feet. I could see this totally being a split decision situation, and no matter who you bet on, you're probably sweating. So because they're low volume, I think I like overs in this fight. I think if you're looking at a to start round 2 parlay, this would be a great one because I'm not really sure either guy is going to finish the other one. Both guys are pretty tough, and like I said, low volume. Not sure that either one's going to get the other on the ground and go for a submission. So to start round 2 has my attention, but as far as picking a side from a betting perspective, no way. There's much better places to put your money, but overs, pretty good spot. Let's take a look at Polyana, Viana, and Iasmin Lucindo. I mean, Iasmin Lucindo's 21 years old and has 19 fights on her record. It's really, really crazy. So we got Lucindo at minus 175. So listen, she's looked good in her 2 fights. She took the loss against Wargi, but we went over that fight about how awesome it was, and we wanted to bet on the winner, we wanted to bet on the loser of that fight in her next one. Lucindo loses. She gets Brogan Walker and just dominates Brogan Walker. We don't get to finish, but then we find out they're like best friends. So Lucindo does not want to finish Brogan Walker. So if you bet Lucindo inside the distance, that was a brutal beat on not getting the losses. We find out they're really good friends. She's a dynamic striker, and Viana finished her last fight. She looked good in doing it, but she's 13-5. Listen, she finishes Jinyu Frey, but before that, loses to Tabitha Ritchie. And then before that, she wins an armbar. So, but it's against Mallory Martin and Emily Whitmire. So, I think Lucindo has the advantage on the feet. I think that once it gets on the ground, as long as Lucindo stays out of the arm bars, unlike, Mallory Martin and Emily Whitmire were able to do, I think she's big enough and strong enough to kind of hold Polyana there. But the submissions you do have to kind of keep in the back of your head. The price feels about right on Lucindo. I kind of like the under in this one. I like this to not go the distance. Lucindo absolutely has power to finish. Viana has finished her last 3. Well, actually, her last 5 wins are all finishes, and so any of her finishes that she's had, or any of her wins in the UFC that she's had, have been by finish. So when she loses, she had a couple. She lost to Hannah Cyphers and JJ Aldridge by decision, but both these women have finishing power. And I think you get a good price just because it is a women's MMA fight, and you get better odds on fights not to go the distance. I lean Lucindo. I'm not going to be betting that side, but taking unders, if I can get a good price on under 2.5 or a fight to not go the distance, I think that's the way to go. I think a KO from Lucindo is in play, and Polyana Viana is always live for a submission. So that would be the way that I would see betting this fight. All right. Up next, Khalil Rountree and Chris Daukus. The big news here is Daukus is moving down a division. This is going to be at light heavyweight. Betting against anyone with the last name Daukus has been profitable recently. And listen, the move down, he obviously had no business being a heavyweight, fighting some of the guys that he was fighting. I mean, he gets starched by Rosenstrike. Curtis Blades knocks him out. Derek Lewis knocks him out. So you got to go back to 2021. Okay, beat Shamil. Okay, he does beat Olenek. But now, man, that chin has been pieced up. And you have to worry about what happens if Khalil Rountree lands. Now, the worry with Khalil Rountree is you kind of never know what you're going to get with Khalil Rountree. So, he wins against Dustin Jacoby, split decision, very, very close. Some people say it was a robbery. I didn't think it was that bad of a decision. Gets the win against Carl Robertson and then beats Bukauskas. So he does have finishing power, absolutely. We've seen it before. That fight against Jacoby was really brutal. So I don't know if Daukus is going to come in and he's going to look completely different at this weight division. Maybe his wrestling gets involved a little bit. Maybe just his striking, it looks a little bit better against a guy that he's going to be the same size or a little bit bigger than. I just worry about the chin of Daukus, and that's why I do like Rountree in this one. The odds are, a little bit juicy here at minus 205, but I don't know, man. Once your chin goes, I don't know how you get it back. And those are 3 knockouts in a row for Daukus. So Daukus may have good hand speed. He may look a lot better moving down a weight division. He may have the advantage if he wants to wrestle, but that chin, if it gets touched by Rountree and Rountree catches him, and Daukus is not great with striking defense, it's only going to take a couple shots, and Rountree is going to jump on him. So I know Daukus is probably going to be a pretty nice, sexy underdog pick in this one. I just can't do it. I think Rountree flattens him again. And listen, if Daukus loses this one, that's 4 losses in a row. Guess what? UFC is probably going to say, we're done with you, Chris Daukus. We're sick of seeing you getting knocked out early. So I'm going with Rountree in this one to get the KO. I just think Daukus' chin is probably gone at this point after his last 3 fights. Co-main event here, Cub Swanson, Hakeem, Dawodu, and I think this is, honestly, I think this is what your opinion is of Cub Swanson. Do you think he's done? You think he's just, kind of had it? Because I kind of do here. The losing by leg kicks to Jonathan Martinez was so painful to watch. You could see how hard those kicks affected Cub Swanson, and Dawodu's got decent leg kicks. For sure Dawodu's going to go after those legs after seeing that. He knocks out Darren Elkins in a fight that was somewhat laughable. I mean, Elkins just looked awful. He gets the win against Daniel Pineda, but, it's Daniel Pineda, not exactly a huge one. I know he loses to Cub Swanson. He does get the win against Tucker Lutz, but he loses to Caceres. So, and that fight was just they both got tired. Pineda got tired in it, and then he beats Kron Gracie by decision. But you look at that. Lewis losses to Burgos, Moicano, Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega. So his wins have not been that impressive, and I think Dawodu, I know he lost his last fight against Julian Erosa, but man, that was like the best Julian Erosa had looked like. And Dawodu had a tough weight cut. I believe he even missed weight. So he had a lot. He did did not set up that well for him. Dawodu's minus 250, and I get it. I think he wins this. Hakeem is a solid technical fighter. He's got really good strikes, really good movement. I think he's going to be the faster and more effective striker. We just see Cub Swanson after the first few minutes, he has to lunge into his punches way too much. He leaves himself way too open to counter strikes. Swanson has a lot of damage on that body, losing to leg kicks. And he's just been through a lot of big-time fights. He's at the end of his career. Dawodu, as I said, is surely going to use his leg kicks. Swanson's cardio has been getting worse and worse. Hakeem's definitely going to have the advantage in that. So if the first round stays close, and Dawodu, you may have a really good live bet. Maybe you hope Cub Swanson wins round 1, but he ain't winning round 2 and 3. Dawodu is going to pull away in that one. So I think if Dawodu starts off good and wins round 1, that spells doom for Cub Swanson. Price is steep. Dawodu at minus 250. I still think he gets us done. I just don't think Cub Swanson's going to be able to keep it up against Dawodu. And again, when Swanson lunges in for those body jabs and those shots, he is so wide open, and Dawodu's got the speed and the technical skills to land those counter strikes, and only a few of them. Only a few of those strikes are going to really damage Swanson. I think Hakeem can take it to the ground and work some time control and some ground and pound there. So it's a parlay piece I don't think is that bad. Like I said, watching the film on Cub Swanson, not that impressive. So Hakeem Dawodu, I think, takes care of Cub Swanson. And finally, we get to the main event, Luque versus Dos Anjos. I will take this opportunity to remind everybody that all of our official plays are on Wager Talk. Honestly, we do our Road to Millions videos every day on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. If you haven't seen them, please join us. We are going on our goal of turning $1,000 into $1 million by only trying to make 3% a week. MMA is a very small part of it, so we go over all of our plays in the other sports. We show you how to manage your bankroll and how to manage our week-to-week bankroll reset. It's a lot of fun, very profitable, coming off a really, really nice week in all sports, so encourage everyone to join us there. Listen, from a betting perspective, this is quick. I have no pick on the side here. The odds are almost even, and I think that's kind of where it belongs. Right now, I'm looking at the live odds. Dos Anjos is minus 120. Luque is plus 100. I think it's close. If Dos Anjos can manage his wrestling and he can get Luque on the ground, it's advantage Rafael. If he can't, maybe we get a much better performance from Luque than we've seen in his last couple fights, and that's what worries me about Luque. When he's on, he's going to be better on the feet. If he's on, he's going to be better on the feet. He's probably going to work the jab and piece up Rafael Dos Anjos. However, he has not really shown that he can do that effectively and win fights. I mean, Bilal Muhammad did exactly what I think Dos Anjos can do, which is, Bilal Muhammad stole some rounds by getting takedowns on Luque. Like, he stole the first few rounds. It was close on the feet, and then bang, Bilal ends up on the ground. However, last couple rounds, Luque was able to stuff the takedowns, but Bilal was able to land jabs. Both guys were bloodied up after that, and then Jeff Neal just looked like a world beater against Luque, and it gets the finish. So if Luque has indeed lost a step, and he comes out and gets pieced up on the feet like he did against Bilal Muhammad and Jeff Neal, yeah, he's in big trouble. But if he can work the jab and he can keep Rafael Dos Anjos at bay, I mean, this Rafael Dos Anjos, the guy's nearing 40 and he's in main events. So, listen, Dos Anjos got handed a gift in his last fight. You couldn't have really tailor-made a better opponent for him than Bryan Barberena. Bryan Barberena has no takedown defense, no submission defense, so Rafael gets him on the ground, eventually works the rear naked choke. But before that, he got knocked out by Fiziev. It's still amazing that he's almost 40 years old and he's still fighting and he's in the main events. I cannot pick a side here. However, if you're looking for a fight to start round 2 as a parlay piece, I think this is absolutely it. I don't see either guy getting finished early on. I don't see these guys because Luque is much better on the ground than Barberena was, so Rafael's not going to be able to finish him in the first round. Luque's striking is going to be jabs probably, and Dos Anjos probably isn't going to get floored by any one of those. So I think this could make it into rounds 2 or 3, and if it does, maybe both guys are tired. They don't have the finishing ability, and it goes kind of towards the end of round 3, and then once you get past round 3, looking at a decision. So maybe take it to over 1.5 rounds as a parlay piece. But as far as a side, if you're making me pick a side, I guess I'll take Dos Anjos because I just have not liked at all what I've seen from Luque, but I'm certainly not betting on it. I'll just look to cash some overs on this one. So that is going to do it, everyone, for our UFC Vegas 78 Fight Night predictions here. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter if you're not already, at Bump Sports. Good luck on all your bets, everyone. All plays can be found at wagertalk.com. Let's have a profitable bet, and we will see everyone later.